Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the workshop. And on the bench today I had somebody has been watching the Epiphone videos that, and I'm still working on that guitar, by the way, or trying to as I have time. This project here is going to delay that just a little bit more, but seeing as how the Epiphone is mine and this one here is not. Anyway, he has been watching some of the Epiphone videos of that restoration, if you want to call it that, and he reached out to me and said, hey, I'm looking at this mid 60s bass. It's a VOX bass, Apollo 4 I think it is. It's like a 65 VOX. Let me just switch cameras and show you the headstock really quickly. So there you go, is the VOX headstock. I'm going to get to that, but he reached out to me and said, hey, I'm got a lead on this bass and thinking about picking it up, and would you take a look at it? And he said restore. I'm going to show you. It does need some work, but I don't know that I would necessarily call it restoration. As you can see, it's not bad looking. As I said, it does have a few things that I'm going to show you. I'm going to kind of walk you through, if I can, on the bench here, some things that I've kind of already looked at and would like to address and all of that. And then from there, I may just pull you handheld and give you a once over, but I don't want to make this kind of I wanted to make this kind of an introductory video, and I don't want it to be super long. So I've kind of given it a once over. It does make noise. It's got some interesting stuff up here. It's got a treble bass boost up here. It's got a distortion. I guess there might be a reason why that you'd want distortion on a bass, but I don't know, but that's on there. And then there's also a G tuner, so when you turn this on, it actually puts out a tone that is in G, which would be the string here, and then you could maybe tune by ear, is kind of the thinking behind that. Maybe this bass shipped with a pick guard, and do not have access to that. Also, for those of you who know anything about this style of VOX mid 60s bass, it should have a wood type inlay in here with the VOX, if you want to call it a logo, the same lettering as the headstock up here. So you got the VOX there. It's upside down to you, and I apologize for that, but it says VOX there, and should have those same letters running here on a wood insert that goes on the inside of this tailpiece. I may try to replicate that. What I was told is basically I could keep this for a month and do what I wanted to with it, to some restoration and stuff like that. So let me just run through this again. I don't want this to be a super long video, but let me just run through a little bit of what I found, and I think the direction that I'm going to go. I love the look of the bass already. It does need some touches around the finish and stuff like that, so I may address a little bit of that. It needs, just some real cleanup, real good cleanup and polishing will help in some of the areas on this, on the body. So we'll do that. There is some checking, and when I'm gonna grab the camera and do a handheld, but there is some cracking in the finish, and it actually, can you hear that? That's my fingernail going across a crack in the finish there. So there's, and I've already checked. I've got a really bright LED light here. Can you see? Really bright LED light there. And I turned all the lights out and held the light. So, if you need to know, or ever want to check and see if a crack goes all the way through or if it's just a finished crack, turn all the lights out so it's fairly dark in the room. Take the bright light, hold it on the crack, and then look. And I mean, we only have the F-holes here to see through, but just hold the light there. If the crack is in the body, and it's a crack in the actual wood of the guitar, the light will go all the way through and you'll see it on the inside. In this case, and there's several more on the back in the finish that, let me just flip it over. Maybe you can see here. Again, it's not in bad shape. It's really not in bad shape for being a mid-60s guitar, but right through, and let me see if I can try to zoom you in, maybe move the camera a little bit, see if I can. I don't know if I can zoom it in. I may have to wait till I have you handheld to kind of show you some of these. Yeah, it's really not going to show up. Yeah, you can kind of see it a little bit. Right there is one of the finished cracks, kind of runs down here, and there's several of those. Just zoom you back out, but there's several of those that are on. I'm trying to maybe minimize some of the glare too, might help you see things here, but there's several of those cracks in the finish, one here and then here, back down through here, and along here. So again, I've taken the light, this bright LED flashlight here, very bright, held it on these cracks and ran it up and down here, and none of the light goes through to the inside. So they are, I'm convinced that they're just finished cracks. So I may try to do a little bit just to, because I can feel them with my fingernail. So I can feel them, so I may do a little bit. I've got some lacquer here, and I may go ahead and just do a little bit of work on the finish to kind of get these so you don't feel them. I'm not going to make it go away. I kind of talked to him about that, and I don't really want to do away with the patina of the guitar. I mean, it's just a really nice old guitar, and I think that's what we need to keep. It is just something that's just really nice old bass guitar that has been well taken care of, and I think that's what we're going for. So back on the front here, so I did have it plugged in, and the electronics do work. I did find a wiring diagram for these electronics, and so we may do some checking out just to make sure everything works. It does take a battery, so we'll check that, and maybe part of the reason that this boost treble bass boost thing doesn't work, maybe it just needs a 9-volt in it, so that would be easy enough. But let me just let's see here. I'm going to switch you to the other camera here, and I've got you. There's the headstock, and it's got open tuners, and they do have a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom in. There you go. It does have a little bit of I don't know if you want to call it rust, maybe, but I'm going to try to clean that up. He mentioned about maybe re-plating the tuners, and I'm going to try to just clean them up and make them look really nice and all of that. I mean, we could go, it's his bass, so I mean, we could go whatever level he wants. If he wants to find somebody to replate these, then, that would be his thing. But let me... There are a couple of dings in the finish that I'm going to try to maybe dye and put some lacquer back over to just protect and do a little filling. But let me do some adjusting here. You've watched me do this before. Zoom back in maybe just a little bit. Here we go. So let's see. You've watched me do this, but just so we have some initial measurements and stuff. Let me kind of show you where we are. The base is, the neck angle's not good, and you've heard me talk about that on other guitars, which means the string action, of course, is outrageous. So to try to compensate, somebody's really cranked on the truss rod, and on a bass here I've got a 15 thousandths feeler gauge, and I'm just fretting. The truss rod adjuster is here, and so I'm just fretting on the last fret and then checking like I typically do. You want to just check relief in the middle of the neck is basically what you're doing. So that's why I do 7, 8, 9, because that's pretty much right toward the center. And the 15 is snug. So somebody's cranked on the truss rod and it's really tight. 15 thou is really tight on the treble side. But somebody's really cranked on this to try to maybe help with the string action because the neck angle is not good. As a result, if I take my my string gauge, and you guys know how these kind of work, right? There's 64s. That's just kind of what it is in guitar. We can't do regular math apparently, or thousandths of inches or whatever. It has to be in 64ths. So if I measured and I did all the way across here, and the string height is 10 64ths at the 12th fret, and then of course as you go down, it does have a cutout, so you could, if you wanted, play way up here, but the string height even gets way higher here. So the neck angle is not good. My guess is this is a bolt-on neck, so I can unbolt it, which I'm going to take the whole thing apart anyway for the cleanup and all of that. But what I can do is put a shim. I've got some thin maple that's like 20 thousandths, and so I can cut and put a shim underneath the back part of the neck here, and maybe even two, depending on how much, because this being an archtop style bass, this of course is the bridge and the saddles, but this is all the way down. These little dials are all the way in the down position, so this is as low as this can go. So and this literally needs to drop. Like I said, it's at 10 64ths, and ideally we'd want to be at like 5 or 6. And there's no way we can't drop this anymore, and there's not really enough. This is not a beefy enough bridge to take material off the bottom. So best option, we'll probably shim the neck with some thin maple veneer, and I'll bring you along for all of this. I just kind of wanted to introduce this to you and kind of show you where we're going and do a short video here. So let me grab the other camera, see if I can't do a handheld thing for you and show you some of the finished stuff that I'm going to need to address. So I'm going to switch you to the handheld. Here we go. So here's kind of the first spot. I'm not sure what's up with this, but you can see this really dull spot right here. So we're going to try to bring that back if we can. If I can, I'm going to try to bring that back, get that to be shiny, and it kind of runs down. You can see it, and then maybe a few scratches here. So we'll do some fine sanding and buffing, polishing, all of that to try to deal with that. On top of the pickguard cover, the plastic is kind of, I'm not sure what happened there, but I may try to deal with that a little bit and make it look a little better. Not sure how, but it'd be nice if that looked better. Let me kind of show you these controls I was talking about here. Try not to blind you with the overhead, but here's the, let me go ahead, I'm just going to plug it in so you can, where's the, plug it in, turn the amp on, give a little bit of volume. So if I turn this G tuner, so that just emits a G. When I turn on, let's see, bass is on, but when I turn on the treble booster, I lose everything to the amp. So I don't know if this, he told me somebody messed around with the electronics, so I don't know if it's just the electronics, it's not wired correctly, or if it just needs a battery or what, so I have to play with that. But that's a treble, can you see that? Treble bass booster. But when I turn it on again, I lose that. Here's a distortion. This does work. There's a lot of buzz, so again, I don't know if something's just maybe not grounded properly or what. Again, it's all part of the process. And you can see here one of this button is actually broken, and this one is missing the label on top. These I've discovered just in my brief search are very difficult to find, and when I did find them, they're pretty expensive. So, but I would like to address that and maybe get something that works and looks pretty original, fairly original. So may try to do that, address something with that. Let's see, we got some finish stuff here down toward the tailpiece. The tailpiece does have a little bit of the plating is kind of chipped off. Again, I don't know how much he'll want to delve in to that. Let me see if I can show you. Here's finish crack on the top. Okay. Here's up the fretboard. Of course, we'll do my standard. I'll clean the frets and clean the fretboard and re-oil it and all of that. Let me try to give you a good shot of that headstock there. Can you see there's VOX? You can see that chip out there too. I'm going to address that. And we'll take the tuners off and clean them, take the string trees and clean those. The string action, and this is kind of unusual to see a 0 fret in a bass, but this one has one. But the first fret action is not good, it's too high. 22 thou I think is Fender spec for a bass, and this is coming in somewhere around 35, so we're going to need to address that. So just so that it plays well. Let's see, I think, let me show you. I'm going to turn the amp off and unplug the cable so I can flip the guitar over. And again, I hope I'm not bouncing you around too much on the handheld camera here, but I want to show you the back. Again, the guitar is not in bad shape. It needs a little bit of work, but it's not in bad shape. Let me go up maybe and show you. It looks like maple neck. Got some nice little thin laminates in there maybe. But nice looking maple neck. You can see these tuners. There is a little bit of stuff on them, but I think I can clean those up and get them looking pretty nice. And you can see there, can you read that? Made in Italy by VOX. So again, there's that chip out. We're going to try to deal a little bit with that. There's a chip out here that's pretty bad, actually. I'm going to try to deal with that somehow. I haven't decided exactly how yet. All right, on the back, here are these cracks, and I'm trying to get it so you can see it. Maybe turn it so the light's not killing us too bad. There we go. There's that's the biggest of the finished cracks. There's another, and if you've never seen one of these bases, there's another there. So those are the finished cracks on the back. We're going to try to make those at least feel okay. Right here is the batteries under here, and you can see this little split. So if we take that screw out, if I were to take this screw out, this would actually come back and allow me to change the battery. So that's the first thing I'm going to check in the whole electronic thing. But notice these snaps, which this I thought was kind of interesting. It's got what they call a cushion, and this snaps in. These snaps, there's 8 of them. Whoop, sorry about that. So there's 8 of them. It snaps in there. So you can see that this is pretty worn out, but I'm guessing they did that just to keep from, you know, your belt or whatever scratching the back of the guitar, just to put a little padding there. I think I'm going to have see if my wife can maybe make a new piece for this, and we'll replace that because this is pretty worn out. And the padding on the inside, not necessarily the material itself, even though it is split in a couple of places, but the padding on the inside. So I'm going to address that as well. So probably the biggest thing that's going to give me a challenge here is this guy right here. I'm not sure. It almost looks like, and again, I don't know the history of this guitar, but it almost looks like the output jack was here, and then the guitar, whatever happened, it really looks like the guitar took a hit, whether it was dropped or, you know, maybe several hits and all of that. Maybe this jack broke, and then they moved it down to here, and then somebody just filled and covered this with something and didn't color it or anything to try to make it blend in. I mean, it would take a lot to make that look perfect, but I think I can make it look better than it looks, and it's definitely taken a hit because this is all I mean, you can feel that. So I may do something here just so you can't feel any of this stuff. You're still going to see the finished cracks and all of that, but I may try to get some of this out of here and do some dyeing and all of that to try to blend this a little better, because in my opinion that wasn't done very well. So there you go. That's kind of an overview. I'm going to spend a few minutes here, and I'm just going to take the bass pretty much apart. So yeah, I'll just bring you along for the journey here. This is, again, just an introductory video for you on this 1965 VOX Apollo 4 bass. Thanks for watching. Again, just trying to grow the channel, so if you would subscribe, thumbs up the video, that always helps, and comment if you have any, especially if you have any comments on maybe where to find some of these knobs, maybe this insert, the letters, those kinds of things. If you can help me out with that, that would be awesome. And I'll see you next time and bring you along for the ride on this VOX bass. See you next time.